Units permanently dying in Fire Emblem is probably the most well-known thing about its gameplay. It's to the point where even though the option to play without it has been a thing for over a decade, if you ask someone about Fire Emblem's gameplay, units permanently dying is probably the first thing they'd think of. But what if I told you that this mechanic, that was highlighted as a series staple, wasn't actually a series staple at all? What if I told you that through the power of bullshit semantics, you can make the statement that permanent death didn't actually become a series staple until 5 games and 10 years into the series? And it was all thanks to a beautiful princess, a beautiful prince, and the furtive piss fountain, so easily forgotten. If those bullshit semantics sound interesting to you, then please, sit back and enjoy the video. And while you're here, please consider liking and subscribing. I know asking for that before the video even starts is kinda dumb, so instead I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to threaten you. Like and subscribe to my channel, or else I will be that noisy neighbor that starts drilling projects at 8 in the morning when you're trying to sleep on Saturday.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
Fire Emblem's first way to cheat death comes in the way of the Alm Staff, a one-use staff that allows you to revive anyone that dies. It's actually the personal weapon of the unit Elise, Marth's older sister, and the entire reason she was kidnapped in the first place was because she could use it. Turns out when you can revive the dead, bad guys think that's a free invitation to use you for their evil plans. Now, in a gameplay sense, this staff isn't exactly meant to let you cheat death that casually. It does only have one use, and it can only be used in a specific area in the penultimate map of the game. This isn't a sort of, you can ignore the permadeath mechanic. This is a, if one of your strongest units, like Agma, or Merrick, or Navarre, or Agma, ended up dying along the way, you can bring them back to help you in the final battle. It's a little bit of an emergency button. You don't really lose anything by not using it, it's just something nice to help you out if you need that little endgame boost. So saying that Fire Emblem 1 technically doesn't have permanent death is a real technical. Just because you can revive one unit for one map doesn't really mean permanent death isn't a major mechanic. But again, we're using semantics, so it counts. The next means in the series to cheat death comes from Fire Emblem Gaiden, where in it, there are 2 separate revival shrines for both Lords Alm and Celica, where, with 3 uses a pop, you can revive any dead unit, I guess by dragging their corpse and having it drink from the water. Probably shouldn't think too hard about how that works. For Celica, her revival shrine is located in the Dragon Shrine, where you have to defeat a battle of 3 Necro Dragons in order to get access to it. And there's a reason Kamui shits his pants at these things. They're not that easy of a fight to take on, but the reward is proportionately very good. It's not like it's even hidden or anything. The revival shrine is in plain sight fairly early into Celica's campaign. You just have to pass the Trial of the Dragons. Sorry. For Alm, it's actually a reward not for battling, but for exploration, as his revival shrine is located in the Secret Shrine, an area on the map that isn't something that looks like you can go to. So by doing the secret technique of pressing right on the world map, you can enter this shrine, and after some battles, get rewarded with the Revival Shrine, where, again at 3 uses, you can revive any unit that's died. Alm's is positioned at the very end of his journey, so it feels a lot more in spirit like the Alm Staff, something to give you that last little power boost as you go to fight the game's final battles. I actually really like the Revival Shrines. It's something that's only really possible in Gaiden due to it being a little bit less linear than all the other Fire Emblems, but the idea that you're rewarded for exploring or for taking on a really difficult battle with the ability to revive your fallen units It's just something I really like the design space of. But we're on to Fire Emblem 3, which because it takes place in the exact same area as Fire Emblem 1, it's the on-staff again. But I'll be 100% honest with you. I love Fire Emblem 3. It's one of my favorite Fire Emblems. I played it on the channel, I'll play it again in the future. It's a really good game. I have zero idea what the fuck they were thinking with the on-staff in this game. Instead of it only having one use, it now has 5. And instead of only being used in one area in the semi-final map, it's now only usable in one area in the final map. Specifically, on the tile where the final boss is after he dies. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's the point of reviving a unit after you've beaten the game? Is there a post-game in FE3? No. After Medeus dies, you just go forward and end the game. So why does it let you do this? With 5 units, no less? I could not tell you. From a gameplay standpoint, it literally makes 0 sense. I guess from a story standpoint, you could see it as letting you revive 5 dead units so that they get their happy endings, which, okay, this is Arcanea. A lot of endings are kind of just, this person fucked off forever, so I don't get it here. It might be because, oh, Elise isn't recruitable until the final map, so that's why you can't use it until then. But FE3 made it so that Yumina could also use the staff. So, I got nothing here. This one is just baffling. If someone in the comments understands Kaga, please enlighten me to his logic. And lastly, in Fire Emblem 4, revival comes through the means of Claude and the Valkyrie staff. Valkyrie staff is a one-use staff, again, that Claude can use whenever he's in the home castle to revive anyone that's died. And this is honestly my favorite iteration of how to reverse permanent death, because it opens up a lot of strategies for a lot of parts of the map. Seemingly impossible enemies like Eldigan or Julius and Ishtar become much more manageable if you have the ability to just throw someone at them as bait and let them die. And it's not just a one-use technically, because due to FE4's mechanics, you can repair the staff and revive someone again, but it costs a lot of money. And due to the fact that Claude himself isn't exactly the most capable fighter, he can't clear out the arena to make the millions on his own that he needs. He'll need some help from Dew or whoever his wife is to fund the staff, so it's still a huge cost to revive someone. Another cool thing is, unlike Elise and the Alm staff, Claude and the Valkyrie staff don't show up right at the end of the game. He shows up about halfway through the 3rd chapter of the first generation, leaving you with him for 2.5 chapters, which, to put that through a conversion rate to regular Fire Emblem, is about 8 chapters, meaning you have a lot more time to consider strategies with the Valkyrie staff. The only problem is if you want to use the Valkyrie staff in the 2nd generation, it's a lot more difficult. Only 2 possible pairings for Claude allow him to have a descendant that can use the staff, pairing him with Fury for Ced, or pairing him with Sylvia for Corpri. And at the very least, there are scenes to increase the love growth between Claude and Sylvia, so you could reasonably have Corpri use it, but he shows up really late, so it's a lot harder to use in the 2nd generation. Still more than possible, though, and a funny means to get Ishtar and Julius to fuck off. But in Fire Emblem 5, the option to use the Valkyrie staff isn't there, which kind of makes sense, because you would need to have, since this takes place in the same world as FE4, a means to recruit whoever Claude's descendant is, be it Corpri or Ced, and Ced is already Lewin's son in FE5's canon, so you would have to get Corpri which just isn't possible with how the timeline shapes out. Corpri is recruited in Selif's campaign's Chapter 9, and Leaf's campaign ends about halfway through Chapter 8, so it just isn't possible. So, for the first time in the series, permanent death is actually permanent. It took until FE5 for a series staple to actually be a series staple. Through bullshit semantics, yes, but nevertheless, it is a true statement. And permanent death was actually permanent for quite some time. All 3 Game Boy Advance games and both of the Teleus games had no means to undo their permanent death, so if someone died, they died, deal with it. But then the remakes for Arcanea came out, and they had some slight adjustments. First of all, Elise is no longer the only woman capable of using the Alm Staff. If you level up any of the other princesses to a point where they can use an A-rank staff, they're capable of using the Alm Staff. Most likely Maria, but if you wanted to reclass Minerva into a bishop for funny reasons, she would also be able to use it. They also removed the fact that you can only use it in one specific place on Chapter 24. Now, you can use it whenever you want, as long as you have the means to use it. This actually opens up some classic Fire Emblem cheese against the final boss, as you can attack Medeus with Tiki, and then he'll kill Tiki on the counterattack, but then you can revive Tiki and attack him again, and Tiki's second attack, no matter the difficulty, will always kill him. And honestly, a strategy like that is just the kind of dumb bullshit this series was founded on. It makes me really proud to be a fan knowing such things are possible. And in New Mysteries Remake, again, you no longer have to be on the tile where Medeus dies. You can just use the Alm Staff wherever you want, keeping the exact same freedom that Shadow Dragon delivers. And as for Echoes, it doesn't change too much either, only adding a new shrine over on Alm's Route. However, because there is now a post-game in Echoes, you can technically save shrines for different sides. Normally, Celica would get 3 revives, Alm would get 3 revives, and that's it. But thanks to the post-game, if you happen to use all 3 of Celica's revivals, and then Bowie still died somehow, you could bring him back with one of Alm's. But other than that, just about the exact same as it was in Fire Emblem Gaiden. Remakes aside, there actually have been some attempts to bring back reviving dead units. Fire Emblem Fates has introduced the Bifrost staff. With it, you can revive any unit that died, but it's a lot harder to use than the Alm staff. The first problem is that Bifrost can only be used by units with an S rank in staves, and due to Fates' mechanics, the only units that can get an S rank in staves are maids and butlers, and the only ones of them that are likely to get an S rank in any meaningful time is just Jacob or Felicia, depending on which one you got at the start of the game. So it's already a bit of a hard sell, but on top of that, the Bifrost staff can only revive someone that died on the same map. If you use the Bifrost staff on Chapter 25, you can't revive someone that died on Chapter 22. You have to use it the same map that they died. This still opens up strategies akin to what the Valkyrie staff could do. The main weakness isn't the same chapter thing, it's the fact that getting Jacob or Felicia to an S rank in staves is nearly impossible naturally. You kinda have to stop to grind for it. To some, that's not that big of a deal, to others, that's an obnoxious waste of time. But honestly, regardless of whether or not it's good, I like that it's there. I really like the strategies that open up by giving you a very limited set of revives. I think it's a cool design space, and I'm happy with the Bifrost staff, even if it's really hard to use. And most recently with Fire Emblem Engage, it technically does have a means to revive dead allies, though in a very different sense than all the others. Through the DLC of the game, Tiki can be used to give an ally a revival stone, which, when they die, instantly revives them. It's normally in-game just on bosses so that you can't cheese them as easy as past games, but through paying money to good old daddy intelligent systems, you can give them to your units too. It's not quite the same. In fact, if it wasn't called specifically a revival stone, I don't think anyone would even consider it to be the same kind of thing as Valkyrie, and Bifrost, but it kind of fulfills a similar purpose, allowing you to engage in a more reckless strategy without the fear of consequence. But I actually don't like it as much. See, with Valkyrie, and Bifrost, you had to make a commitment. The revival stone from Tiki is just her emblem attack. She can just do that, so it doesn't nearly require as much sacrifice. But, you know, it's DLC. I'm not paying $20 extra for things to just be mediocre. If I'm paying money, I want them to be broken as shit. And honestly, Emblem Tiki is broken as shit. So I gotta say, I think it's fine in that regard. I just don't like it as a revival mechanic. If what I said makes no sense to you, that's fine. I'm fairly certain this is just a me thing, but still, it has revive in the name, so I figured that it was worth talking about. And honestly, looking back on the series, I really wish it did more like the Valkyrie staff. I really like the design space of letting you revive units at a strict cost, giving weight to permadeath, but allowing you to experiment with the mechanic in a unique way that isn't just turning it off entirely for casual mode or keeping it on for classic. I really think this series can continue to do stuff with it more than what they do. But hey, if you enjoyed this history lesson, thank you! Gameplay isn't normally my forte, but I like to dabble in it every now and again. And before this video ends, I have one more question for you. Have you ever thought about giving me money? Well, you should, because I have a Patreon, and I would greatly appreciate it if you could support it in any way you can. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Alex Arliga, Andrew Crockett, Bean Juice, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Hell on Heelys, Ichigo D. Camus, Jaeger Guts, Kenpachi Shiro, Uzumaki, Kure, Mato, Kratos, Charangelo, Frederick, Sirius, Balsara, Hakuman, The White Void, Despacito 2, Larmachi, Ly-70 Bolt, Marth War Criminal, Morga Lorgan, Plaid Arrow, Played is pronounced like the pattern, Ranger Man Sam, Shen Lu, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stan, Viri the Artist, Walmart Greeter, Yo Girl Olwyn, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Fire Emblem Lord, Ginger, Goo Goo Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, Lev Maverick, Maple Knight, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.